So when I started this channel, I always had the intention of making it movies and TV, and I've kind of realised lately that I've been leaning far more towards the movie side than I have the TV, and I love talking movies. I'll continue to talk about movies, and I'll continue to review all the new movies that I can. But the TV side of things, I've kind of let them slack a little bit, and some of the best comments that I've had on this channel so far have come from videos that I've done on TV shows, particularly Buffy. So I've done a couple of Buffy videos. And yeah, I'm loving seeing the comments on there. I'm loving people sharing their opinions and sort of talking about my opinions and just us talking about the show together. I enjoy that. It's one of the reasons I started doing the channel in the first place, is to engage with other fans of TV and film, because I annoy people in my personal life by talking about them far too much. So yeah, this is my way of talking about it, is to talk to a camera and then with you guys in the comments. So I wanted to do a different sort of video. I'm calling it episode by episode, and it's basically where I'll go through a TV show season and just give some brief thoughts on each episode in that season. And starting with Buffy season 1 seemed like the best place to begin, because there's already a few of you that are subscribed because of Buffy content that I've done so far. But if you've got any other shows that you'd like me to tackle, that you'd like me to have a go like this, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what shows I should give a try, I should review each episode of. They're only going to be brief little bite reviews. I'm not going to go into them in great depth, but it's just a chance to give some brief thoughts on every episode of certain TV shows. But if you do request them but I haven't seen them, you may have to wait a little while for me to actually get around to watching them. But then, I've watched a lot of TV. And I don't know whether this video will work or not. It may be absolutely awful. We'll find out in a few minutes' time. But yeah, if you do like the video, hit like, hit subscribe as well, and just let me know and I'll keep doing them. If this is a success, if people do enjoy watching this, if there's a lot of engagement and people do share their own opinions on these episodes as well, then yeah, I'll go through every Buffy and Angel season at some point over time. I don't want to just do Buffy and Angel, because there's so many TV shows out there I do want to talk about as well. So let's begin with episode by episode of Buffy season 1.
Put the bunny back in the box.
So the first season of Buffy is one that I'm quite critical of. It was the bottom of my list on the ranking video. So I like it. I don't dislike the season, but compared to everything that comes after it on Buffy and Angel, it's certainly a weak point. And it's understandable why it is, because it's a show that was very much trying to find its feet in these opening 12 episodes. But yeah, it struggled to find its feet, and it struggled to find its voice and its identity. It didn't seem to know 100% what it wanted to be, or if it did, it didn't seem to know how to convey that to the audience that well. So there's quite a few misses in this, and it's a very dated season as well. Season 2 as well, for me, for the first half, was also quite dated in places, but it seemed to find its groove a little bit more. But it struggled in season 1, with the exception of a couple of episodes that I do think were standout. But I'm not saying that I hated the first season, just to clarify. It's just, yeah, compared to everything that came after it, it's certainly the weakest of the bunch. But let's talk about the episodes. So the first one is Welcome to the Hellmouth and the Harvest, as a 2-part opening episode. And I think this kind of sums up season 1 perfectly well, these first 2 episodes, because it's very much a mixed bag. It does what it needs to do in certain areas, which is kickstart this world. There was obviously the movie that came before Buffy, but I had never seen the film until recently, actually, and I didn't particularly like it. But I hadn't watched it until this point, so these opening episodes had to serve as an in, assuming that you hadn't watched the movie, and it does that relatively well, at least in terms of giving us an idea of what the story is. The characters are introduced in nice ways. They're all likeable from the start, with the exception of Cordelia, but she's not really meant to be. And it drops a lot of lore into the mix straight away, with the Slayer, with vampires, with the Watchers. I think the Watchers Council were referenced as well, but you get Giles coming as the Watcher and kind of be exposition man to a degree, tell us about the Chosen One. I say, all that side of things, it does do a good job of. It gives us a very solid idea of what Buffy the Vampire Slayer is. But man, is this dated. Whenever I think of these first 2 episodes, I think of that scene of the vampires walking across the graveyard and just how corny and cheesy it looked. And Buffy did cheese quite a lot over its 7 years, but it did it knowingly. I think is a way of putting it. It knew when it was going to be cheesy, and it did it kind of almost tongue-in-cheek, but this one seemed like they were really trying to make it serious, and it didn't work for me at all. That's just one key scene that always stands out. And a lot of this seems inconsequential as well. I mean, if a character dies on Buffy, and it happens, we feel the loss. Like, the characters are dealing with that loss for quite some time. But look at the character of Jesse here. He's Xander's best friend. He's known Willow for a long time. By all accounts, he's been friends with these guys for years. Is he even mentioned again? after this episode. Like, he dies. He dies here, and his name, I don't even think gets dropped in at any point throughout the following 6.5 seasons. And that's always been really jarring to me. I remember when I first watched it as well, it was like the next episode came along and it was no one sad about Jesse at all. Poor old Jesse. But this is what I mean about the season, about the show taking a while to find its footing, because even though we, the audience, didn't know Jesse that well, Joss Whedon, as the show went on, still would have given that gravitas. He still would have made sure that the characters really were feeling that loss, and we didn't get that here with him. But despite how dated it looks, and despite how shaky some of the writing is, it's still a good, solid introduction to the world of Buffy. That opening scene, sort of, which probably these days wouldn't be subverting expectations, but when it was, when you had the blonde girl being led through the school by the guy, and you expect that she's going to be the one attacked, and then they switch it, and it's actually Darla who's the villain here. Love that. It's such a great first couple of minutes. And the rest of the episode does have some very solid moments in, but for me, it's just very, very shaky. The next episode is The Witch, and it's one that I think is much, much better than the first couple of episodes. It seems to have got the fun down, I think, with The Witch. And it shows us very quickly that in this world it isn't just vampires. Yep, the show's called Buffy the Vampire Slayers, but there's many other different forms of evil and monsters out there that they're going to have to take on. And going with a witch could have gone pretty badly, but the way they handled it here, and the character of Amy as well, and just how they've pulled a fast one there with sort of Amy's mother actually inhabiting Amy, it's just really well done. Buffy herself seems to be much more fun in this episode. She seems to be having a lot better time at things. Sarah Michelle Gellar seems to be enjoying it, and the cast seem to click a lot more than they did in the first couple of episodes. And again, I'm not really slating those first couple because it's the first couple of episodes of a show, and this whole season is the first season. But yeah, this one for me was just much more of a solid episode than the one that came before it. I can't say the same about Teacher's Pet though. I've never liked this episode at all, and the first couple of Xander episodes, he gets another one in a couple of episodes, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes, aren't brilliant. And yeah, this one's probably the worst of the bunch. It's just so generic. There's nothing that really stands out about it. There's not even a lot I can really say about Teacher's Pet. It's just an episode that's there. I mean, it's not offensively bad, but it's nowhere near good either. It's just one of those episodes that's instantly forgettable, and I always hate it when they do these little tags at the end of an episode that kind of hints that, oh, the bad guy's not really gone with, but then we never see them again anyway, which is for the best, because I wasn't a fan of this character at all. And maybe it's just me, but a giant praying mantis just doesn't come across as all that scary. I found it very silly. I found it silly when I first watched it, and I was only about 13 at the time, and it's still silly now. Never Kill a Boy on a First Date is a terrible episode name. I don't know why I hate that episode name so much, I just always have. The episode itself is fine. I mean, it's a bit dull. I've always found this one to be a very boring episode. Owen just seems like such a lifeless character, and not the sort of person you'd expect Buffy to go for. Riley haters? Don't. But yeah, this one, I mean, it furthers the mythology a bit. We get the anointed one, the little creepy child that comes in, so it does move the plot along. But yeah, this episode just kind of meanders along a little bit. It's not one I hate, it's not one I actively dislike, but when I do a rewatch of it, it's always one that I'm just like, oh yeah, this one. The Pack. Xander gets a second episode to himself, and Willow hasn't even had one yet. She will soon. It's not good. I've got a soft spot for The Pack, but I'm aware that it's not a good episode. But it's fun. I enjoyed Xander being this dick of a character for a little while. Like, there's some fun to be had there with it. Although it is all very, very silly. The fact that they've all turned into hyenas, like even saying this now kind of hampers my enjoyment of it quite a bit. But yeah, it's a silly episode, and it's really dark as well, but it doesn't seem to understand how dark it is. That they eat the principal. Thankfully Xander doesn't. Which is a bit of a cop-out, actually. Maybe he should have done. Maybe that would have given him some early development at his principal. But yeah, they eat Principal Flutie in this one. And I really feel that should have been far more darker than it actually was. This whole episode's a little bit too breezy in places. It has some dark moments, but it kind of flits between those tones a little bit too much that I can't take it seriously when it wants me to. But yeah, not a good episode, but it's one that, for whatever reason, I quite enjoy it. Episode 7 was Angel, and this is one of the best in Season 1 because it takes the mythology that we've had so far and switches it. It gives us such a fantastic element to the show, which is having a vampire that's a good guy and without a soul. And obviously fans of the show know how important that becomes. Like the character of Angel, he gets his own show a few seasons after this, so this is a really good proper introduction for him. Until now, Angel's just kind of flitted in and out and been all mysterious and brooding, and he's always mysterious and brooding, but more so when we don't know anything about him. But here, we not only learn about him, but we get to deal with Buffy's horror of finding out who he is. Like that scene where she sees he's a vampire for the first time is one of the standout scenes in the first season, I think, and it's one of the scenes from Buffy as a whole that I always seem to remember the most. And I love the interactions between Angel and Darla here. Obviously, that comes into play a lot more, but him staking her was just such a cool moment, and it's one that just made us realise that, yeah, Angel's a good guy. Angel's a character that we can get behind. I mean, it's not a perfect episode. The Vampire 3, I think they were called, aren't overly compelling. They're quite generic in terms of villains, but this one had a lot of heavy lifting to do with the actual characters themselves. So it's kind of forgivable that the villains of the episode were going to be a little bit more throwaway. But yeah, really good episode. One of season 1's best. Followed by not just one of season 1's worst, but probably the worst episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer ever made. Certainly one of them. I may do a top 10 worst episode list at some point. Maybe I should do a best episode list as well. Why haven't I done that yet? I, Robot You, Jane is hideously bad. Hideously bad. And it sucks that this was Willow's first episode to herself. Alison Hannigan must have seen the script and gone, oh God, is this what I'm in for? Really? This? There's just nothing redeeming about it. The one good thing I can say is that it gives us Jenny Calendar. We're introduced to her in this episode, but when I say that season 1 seems dated, no more so is that evident than in I, Robot You, Jane. And this episode probably seemed dated when it aired in 1997. It's just awful. The performances are bad, the script is excruciating, the villain is embarrassing. I've never met anybody that's defended this episode before, so if you do like the episode, please do let me know why in the comments, because I'd love to hear from somebody that actually really enjoys it. But yeah, for me, this is just a terrible episode. It's one, whenever I've done a rewatch with somebody, I've always just kind of skipped past it a little bit and just gone, we didn't miss an episode. No, there was always 11 episodes in season 1. What episode are you talking? Doesn't exist. And that's best doing with this episode. Terrible. The Puppet Show is a great deal of fun. It is. It's a talking puppet. It's not overly original, but the way they do it sort of is. I kind of like the way it's handled, the way the villain and the reveal and stuff's done here. But yeah, the puppet himself is just a lot of fun. I don't know what it is with me and puppets, but yeah, like Chucky. I've always loved the Child's Play movies. There's something about puppets that creep me out, and this episode did a good job with that. It was just such a unique little spin to have Sid the dummy be a good guy with somebody that's actually trying to help them out. And again, it's very silly, but when Buffy does silly well, it's really good, and this is one of them where I think that it did. Yeah, it's a bit silly, the whole trying to steal Giles' brain thing, strapping him down. Like, it's very, very silly. But again, keep saying the word silly, but it does it well. This is an episode that I really enjoy. It's not one of the best by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just one that's just plain fun. And it also gives us Snyder for the first time. Good old Principal Snyder. He's such a horrible character that I just love at the same time as hating him. So it was good to have him on board with this one. I love the little end credit scene as well of Buffy, Willow and Xander performing that play. That's great fun. Yeah, just a fun episode. Nightmares is one of my favourite standalone episodes from the first season. Maybe even the first couple. I quite like this one a lot. The fact that it blends the really serious drama and the humour so well, which is a staple of what Buffy will become, and Angel to a degree as well. Like, we've got a child that's being beaten and abused here, and it's his sort of subconscious that's causing all these horrible things to happen to everybody, but it's not all doom and gloom. There is some fun to be had. I mean, I'm terrified of clowns, but the sequence of Xander punching the clown is one of my favourite Xander moments, always will be. So yeah, it blends these two things together almost seamlessly, and it's one of the first times the show did that. And it's fun seeing people's worst fears as well. I mean, Willow having to sing the opera is one of the most bizarre things this show's done, but again, it works. Cordelia's fear is typically Cordelia, like it's very in character, and Buffy becoming a vampire, not only is that a cool visual to see, the character with all the vampire makeup get up on, but it allows us to get inside Buffy's head more and see what really does actually terrify her, and the same with all the cast. It's done really well. All of the fears seem perfectly in keeping with the characters, even something silly like Xander just being afraid of clowns, or the generic fear of being naked in front of all of your class, which is a fear that I've never really had, because I don't know how I would end up naked in front of everybody in class. Never really understood that fear, but it works. Very, very solid episode, Nightmares. It's one that I enjoy watching every single time I do a rewatch. And by the way, I do these rewatches quite a lot. Buffy, I think, is my most watched show. Probably should take a bit of a break from it, but yeah, I just always want to go back to it. Out of Mind, Out of Sight is the first Cordelia episode of the show, and it's a relatively solid one. It's good to get some depth to the character of Cordelia here, because up until this point, There's not been a huge amount to her. She's just been the bitchy character. And I think this episode is the one that causes her to grow in the way that we eventually see her do, because it's the fact that she's so popular, and it's the fact that she's so sort of high and mighty within the school that's caused all the problems for her here. It causes her to take a look at herself and the way she interacts with people, and it doesn't instantly change. Like, there's not a quick switch to Cordelia, but there's a gradual change from her from this point onwards over the course of the show. And yeah, I think it's all down to this episode and what she experiences. The character of Marcy is a good one. Just a girl who feels so excluded from everything that she actually becomes invisible is just such a great little metaphor, which the show does well. High school's hell has always been the mantra, well, for the first 3 seasons at least. And this is one of those that, yeah, it's a bit heavy-handed. Like, it doesn't shy away from what it's saying. It's very, very on the nose, but it works. And I like the ending as well, the FBI taking Marcy away and there being other sort of students as well that are part of this. And I've seen some criticism of this episode, being that that's never touched on again. Like, we never find out what the FBI are doing, but in my head, that just links to the initiative. The government know that these sort of things happen, and they're trying to use them to their own advantage. So yeah, it's just an initiative set up for me, so I've never really thought of it as a loose end as such. Which brings us to the end of Season 1, Prophecy Girl. I always found the Master to be one of the weaker big bads of the show. Probably, in fact, the weakest big bad of the show, apart from Season 4. Like, he was a bit too over the top for Buffy. Buffy was really good with its villains when they were nuanced, when there was layers to them. With the Master, we didn't really get that, so I was really happy to see him go. I was looking forward to what it would bring to the show next, and he goes in a really good way as well. Like, Buffy gives her life here, which she should probably get used to stop him, to save the day, and she literally does die for a little bit, and that's such a great little sequence to see her go. It's one of those ones that just shocked me the first time I saw it. Like, it was, are they really going to kill her off? And of course they bring her back, but what I like is that there's repercussions to that. It's not just, yep, she's back, that's all good. Like, Kendra comes into the show shortly afterwards because of that. So it's an episode that's important in the grand scheme of Buffy. And up to that point as well, Prophecy Girl is really good at the foreboding. There's a sense of dread over this episode, and it's delivered perfectly by Sarah Michelle Gellar's performance. You can see how on edge she is about what's happening. I mean, she outright says how on edge she is about what's happening. And it does feel that this could go badly. Like, this could go badly for Buffy, and it feels like that the whole way through. And every character gets a chance to shine here as well. It's not just Buffy. Xander gets to save her. Angel gets to show what he's made of again and trying to help them out. You get Willow and Cordelia together, and when those two are in a scene together, it's so much fun. But they're fighting vampires. You've got Giles in on the action. Every single character gets a moment in the spotlight in this one, which I think every season finale needs. And Buffy's always been good at ending seasons. Its season finales are always very, very, very high in quality, and this one's no exception. There's other standouts in Season 1, but for me, Prophecy Girl is without question the best episode. It's the one where this doesn't feel like a Season 1 episode. I mean, yeah, it's got the Master and all of that in there, but it doesn't feel like it tone-wise. It feels like it could easily be placed a little bit later in the show. This is the episode where everything 100% clicked, where it became the show that it wanted to be. And as I say, Season 2 gets off to a bit of a shaky start. It doesn't quite keep up this momentum, but it doesn't take long for it to get it back again. So yeah, Prophecy Girl, still one of my favourite episodes of the show. So they're my thoughts on every single episode on Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 1. If I do continue to do these, I'll probably break them up, because 22 episodes, I think, is what we got for every single Buffy season. Yeah, they'll be long videos, so I'll probably do them in 2 parts. But let me know if you want to see them. Let me know if these are the kind of videos that you want me to what you want me to do. I'm always happy to kind of talk to you guys and see what will make the channel better and the kind of content that you want to see. So do let me know. And don't forget to also let me know what you think about each of these episodes as well. Tell me what you think about them. Tell me which ones that you love, which ones that you hate, or which ones you just think to be forgettable. Let's continue to talk in the comments. As I say, if you like this video, hit like and hit subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter as well, @JoeJulians. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.